Rob, yeah, no, really pleased to get to, that landmark as a manager and that in an industry that is very difficult and a real competitive industry. So to get to the 100 games mark as a boss is some small achievement, but obviously, you want to continue to keep going and keep trying to improve as a boss going forward. But to reach that 100 games is, it's a lovely achievement.
Where would you like Sheffield Wednesday to be in another 100 games?
Certainly in a higher division than where we are now, that's for sure. To what level division that is, but I'd certainly like it to be in a better division, because that again will show significant improvement again, Rob.
Do you have a favourite moment, Darren, in the last 100 games? Is there a sort of a moment that stands out for you?
Probably. I think for we played a game away at Doncaster, and I didn't realise the magnitude of the game in terms of us coming back and winning. And I think that was a special moment, really, not realising on that game and not realising what we'd done. And I know it was another league game in a Yorkshire derby, but I suppose to do it on that occasion and what it meant for the players at the time was a special time. So that's a memorable moment for me in the season. But for me, it's just the turnaround transition in terms of the mentality in the club. And there's new vigour and there's new hope in the club, really, Rob. So I suppose for me, in terms of the favourite moments, they're continuing to evolve for me, really, in terms of that, really. I look back and think to the last 100 games and we've come in here, the work that we've put in, there's been significant change, but we know that there's a lot more, there's a lot more thirst and hunger and desire in terms of for myself and the staff, that we have to still continue to do a lot more things. And we know it's a hard road ahead, but we're up for the challenge.
What's the injury updates then on Barry Bannon and George Byers? Are they likely to be back this weekend?
Yeah, with the press today, Rob, being a little bit early, I usually like to speak to you guys day before when I'm more specific on numbers and that. At the moment, Rob, what I can say to everybody is all of them are training. George, Baz, Dennis are all training. I can't think if there's anybody else, but they've all trained. But obviously, Rob, there's a couple more training sessions to go before that, and but as I speak here now, and hopefully it'll turn out to be that way when we contest Fleetwood, that all three of those players will be available along with the rest of the group.
It's a 10-game unbeaten run, but the recent performances have concerned some fans, and in the last two games it has taken a bit of late drama to avoid defeat. Why do you think the performance level has just dipped recently?
I mean, sometimes you scratch your head because, with me, Rob, I'm all about performance, the team. That's a real big factor for me. And certainly the last couple of performances ain't been us. For whatever reason, you can take a lot of contributing factors to it, but I try not to look at them too much. I just look with us as an individual, because I think if you start looking outside and all because there's a million and one things that can happen. I think it's just really maintaining that focus with us, that we pride ourselves on performances, because we believe that with good performances we get results. Certainly the last couple of performances have not been us, and they have been a little bit of a concern, but again, we continue to work. We've identified areas where we need to be better, and making sure that we're not slipping up with potential parts in our game that could have led to us losing the game. And I think that's been the bit what we've been really focusing on, is identifying, Rob, whether we win a game, lose a game or draw a game, we always do a post-match analysis on the game and look to where we can be better. That's always been the same from day one, and that's challenging us as a staff, and that challenge to the group of players. We never tap ourselves on the back with a convincing win, and we never get too down with a loss. We're always looking at areas where we need to improve, and that's been a continual basis of us getting better in order to try and get better.
What has prevented you from maybe being yourselves then? Do you think? What are the things that you would pinpoint? What have you spoken to the players about?
Obviously, being adaptable to when teams change. You know, we've faced teams that have adapted and changed their approach with us, and we've had to make tactical decisions in the game that we've had to make that probably have gone contrary to what we've wanted to do. But that's the game, and it's identifying and being adaptable for it, and making small sacrifices in order for the team to benefit. And in terms of that, we've saw that whilst also maintaining that we've got our focus and wanna go and win the game. That's been probably one of the small points that I wouldn't say it's the only one, but certainly one of the smaller points in putting down for the last couple of games. And the players maintain it. The biggest thing that any coaching staff and players, any man and woman inside the professional industry, Rob, as you know, consistency. It's a continual, daily process working at consistency. And that's the bit what we work on. And it's been the same from day one I've been here. It's a real challenge to find that consistent rhythm and staying ahead of it. You're on a run of games that we're on. We want to continue it and keep going because we know that if we stop, it doesn't get us to where we want to get to.
And consistency is so important, Darren. We see it every year during Christmas, so many games. A lot can change during this period. In order to get consistency, do you consider picking a team, a shape, where players are just sort of playing in their most familiar positions? Will that help find some consistency in a level of performance? And do you sort of go with that over Christmas now to try and find that improved performance?
Yeah, you can do that and play players in their positions or play a system. You might play a certain system that may suit a group of players and a certain system might suit another group. It's all conforming and falling on that same page to get those right results and keep that consistent level of performance going. And I think that's what it is, including the cup match. We've got 4 games in 11 days to prepare for now. So the group will get called upon. Hopefully that there'll be a shape and consistency to perform in those games. But we could have injuries over that course of it, and we don't know. We can't foresee what's going to happen in those games. But what we have to do as a group of players is be ready for it.
Do you feel some growing impatience within a section of the fan base? There's been a bit of booing, dissatisfaction from some of the supporters, and what would you say to those who think, you know, we'd like to see a bit more from Sheffield Wednesday? Yeah,
as I said before, you know, we're a club where we understand the expectation, and you know, like I said to myself and the players, you know, what we have done, we've come together as a group, and what we've done certainly over the course of the last year or ever, we've given there's hope in the club. And I said there's hope in the club because in terms of what you've done over the last year or so. So the mere fact that there's hope in there, it shows that there's a concern and a will and a want. And those sections of supporters that are showing approval or disapproval, it all points to the same page. They want to just do well. And that's what it is at the end of the day, because you know, if you win games and you're doing well, then the performance, the supporters have been right behind us. Obviously, if you're drawing games or losing games, they want to be competing at the right end of the division, so they'll show it. But one thing that we're on the same page. We all want to achieve the same outcome, and that's what it is at the end of the day. And I've just said that to the group of players and ourselves in terms of going forward.
Final question, Darren. A couple of fans have asked about this, so I thought I'd put it to you. Michael Smith, so productive last year, spearheading the front line for Rotherham. He got 15 goals at this point last year. He's only got 7 so far this season. It's the same with Lee Gregory. He had 8 goals this time last year. He's only got 4 now. Are they being used in a way that is getting the best out of them?
We've been using them as a twin strike force. We've played them on their own. We've played them with a different combination. I think you've seen them play together or with a different strike partner each. And in terms of both of them, in terms of the goals that they've probably got this season, they probably want more because strikers are greedy and want goals, and I want number nines to score goals. This season, obviously, we've known that a lot of the goals have been shared out in amongst the team, but certainly as your two number nines, they want to score goals, and we want them to score goals 100%, and we'll keep. And I believe that both strikers, in terms of where they're at, they'll get double figures this season. In terms of the assist and that, they'll still keep getting in there. My message has been to both of them is when played along with Pato or Windass or whoever's played up there, is keep getting into those areas. Last week, despite the performance, you know, Josh had a chance, Pato had a chance, first half, second half, you know, there was chances there. Smudge had a chance and a half chance, you know, and you know, one of those chances going and that it's a complete different feel to it. What I keep believing is just keep getting in there, and you know, we'll keep the balls arriving in those right areas that we've been working on, and they'll get on the end of them. In terms of it, the reason being is because they're two good players, two exceptional players that we've recruited in, and two players that we believe that, you know, given the right surface and that, they'll certainly score more goals.
Thanks, Darren. All the best.
Thanks, Rob. Have a good Christmas, mate.
Same to you.
You're right, Darren. How are you doing?
Afternoon, Joe. All right, thanks.
Good stuff. When we spoke last time, you said that you obviously had a full week to work, you know, a lot of time to spend time with your players. Do you feel like you've achieved what you were hoping to over the last week or so?
Yeah, every week we feel that when we work with the players, it's another week and day to get used to each other, to implement ideas and find that group cohesion and that understanding. And the only time you do that, Joe, is spending the time together. You know as well as me that I love when I get to work with the players in the training ground. There's no better part. It's the most probably favourite part of the job and industry, really, is getting to work with the players, because that's where relationships are built.
Absolutely. And I want to touch on the sort of the calendar year. Obviously, I know it's probably a little bit hollow without a promotion or anything like that at the end of it. But are you proud of the points tally that you've wrapped up over the course of the year? I mean, I think it's the highest of any team in the 92.
Yeah, obviously, you it's again another small proud achievement in terms of that. Did I know about it, Joe? And would I suspect it over the year? No, to be honest with you, because you know, just about just winning games, you know, and you know, to rack up them points, it shows that we've always had an intent of winning games. I said it to you before, as a manager, that can be you can look at it as a strong point to me or a weak point to me in terms of that. I never know when to go into a game and sit back for a draw. There's always an element to win a game, and that's I'll always sort of have that. And I think by having that attitude can only result that we've clocked up the points tally, that the points that we have over a calendar year, to suggest that, you know, to be sitting on top of the pile of all four divisions, we have to keep that intent with us really, and keep that drive and keep that outward look in terms of that we want to win games. We're at a football club here where we need to win games and we want to win games. But I've always had that mentality as a manager, and will continue to have that.
Obviously, a big sporting day. This next one at Boxing Day. Does it feel any more special to you as a manager? I know that you like to sort of treat every game as its own occasion, but with Boxing Day, does it feel that little bit different?
Yeah, it's always different, because obviously there's always extra fans on the gates no matter where you are, because everybody's visiting relatives and friends, and Boxing Day takes care of itself. Let's go and watch a game. So attendances always go up on Boxing Day, and it'll be no different certainly at Fleetwood. It's different for me because over the 20 or 30 odd years in the game, I think I've only had Christmas Day off once, twice. So really for me on Christmas Day, you know, we'll be working as normal, and it's the sacrifices that you make in terms of working in the industry. Some have it off, some are in working, There's no right or wrong to it, Joe. It's just each in their own, really. And that's why I just see Christmas Day as a continuation in part of the Football League.
I was going to ask, is there any sort of any differences with Christmas Day training? I presume there's no like Christmas dinner put on by the chefs or anything like that.
No, it's obviously you can understand that on Christmas Day it's sort of skeleton staffing in terms of around it, which you can understand. For us, we have a focus and in terms of the game on Boxing Day, and that's our focus and that's our attention to detail in terms of that for the Boxing Day game, and then we contest and get ready for Boxing Day. As I said, Joe, there's no real special preference. Some teams and managers will have the whole day for themselves. Some players, some teams will come in, and that's just the way it is over Christmas. So it's a real special time for the families and friends, but certainly for us as a group, we focus on that game on Boxing Day. And as you said, there's such a tally of points that you can accumulate over a real short space of time, and that's why this Christmas programme can be really important.
Yeah, and obviously the Christmas period is, there's a lot of games, a lot of points to be won, but it also brings around the transfer window start as well. You've got a lot of players who are out of contract at the end of the season. I know that you're in a position where you say the contracts until they're not, but with the opportunity of possible pre-contracts, things like that from teams in Scotland and overseas, is that something that concerns you all with any of your players?
No, it don't concern me, because again, it's another part to the game, Joe, that you can only control the controllables, and those outside of it, I think as a manager, if you spend your time worrying about that, there's a lot more situations within the club that you need to focus on and point your energies towards. As I said to you, all the players that you've spoken about, they're all under contract until end of the season or beyond. So as it stands here now, they're all contracted. And as it stands here now, we feel as a group that we've got a real focus on, got ourselves into a position in the league where we're only in a half decent position in terms of what we want to do and continue to do, and we keep challenging ourselves as a group every single day to be better in terms of what we are and who we are. And I think that's the focus, and that's the bit where I've certainly been focusing on. Those bits and pieces and surmising what's going to happen in the January window or at the end of the season, Joe, there's so much things that you and I can second guess now, and when it comes to it, it won't happen. It never really happens. So what's the point of worrying about it? Let's just keep our focus. Let's keep the momentum going. Let's keep the form going in the right way, and let's see if we can continue picking up good sufficient points in terms of the end of this season and going into 2023.
Do you think it's something that can affect the players, though? Obviously, there's been, Hearts have been very vocal about the fact that they're interested in Pato, for instance. Do you think that sort of media stuff can affect where players' headspaces are at any point?
Potentially, yeah, potentially. It's all part and parcel of the game. You talk about that potentially affecting the players. Social media is a big component now that I think can affect players or anything else because of just in today's life experiences. So that can be it. So can a club showing outward interest in a player affect it? Possibly. But again, like I said, I can't really comment too much on that because my job is really to maintain and focus on my team, my group of players. They mean a lot to me. They mean a lot to the football club. And as I said to you before, they're contracted at the football club and they've all got jobs to do.
Brilliant. And just lastly from me, I know that you say football can change very quickly in 24 hours, but as things stand currently, do you foresee a busy transfer window for Wednesday this January?
I hope not, Joe. I really hope not. I'd like to think that we're at a level where we've worked extremely hard over the last couple of years, and I hope not. I hope it'll be a relatively quiet one for us. But like you said, it's a 24 hours is a real long time, mate.
Brilliant. Thanks for your time. Have a great Christmas and I'll see you on Monday.
Merry Christmas, Joe. See you Monday, mate.
Darren, how's Drake? You alright?
Afternoon, Alex. Yes, fine, thank you.
Great stuff, good stuff. First of all, just wanted to touch on something that I know you've been passionate about, certainly developing post-COVID at Wednesday. A busy week for the guys, seeing, going to different children's hospitals and bits and bobs. How important was that and pleasing for you to see all the players sort of muck in and enjoy that sort of stuff?
Yeah, Alex, for me, and the boys echo it, and on behalf of the boys, the hospital staff, they're the heroes, really. I mean, I can't even share some of the stories that we was hearing about there, and how they've rehabilitated some of them kids in the hospitals and the families and brought them together. The commitment, the drive, the determination to not let a situation get beat when all odds were stacked against them is credit to the staff there, really, and it gives you a real insight. And the afternoon went blitz, it flew by, Alex, because of the attention to detail and everything that they went into, and they're all Wednesday fans as well. The staff there, really, you go there and it was really, really great to hear their views and with the team, the club, where we're at, but also us for hearing about the jobs that they're doing, and it's an incredible work what they're doing there, and I really mean it. They're the heroes in there, really, in terms of the work they're doing, and they'll be in over Christmas. Some of the kids will be in over Christmas, and to what they're going to be doing for them to make it such a special day and time is exceptional, really. So, I hope this message reaches them well, and we wish them all a Merry Christmas there, and to keep up the good work.
Absolutely. That industry is going through a tough time at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, here for all that. Just going back to the plans for tomorrow, what does it sort of look like? So you're in training. I assume you're travelling across, are you, as well? So what time will the guys sort of be saying goodbye to their loved ones and all the rest of it, and getting their focus straight on Fleetwood?
Yeah, no, they'll be in tomorrow, and they'll have part of Christmas Day with the families and loved ones, and then they'll have half the day with them, and then they're in. We'll be training and then travel, and they'll be in a hotel on Christmas night. So, and in terms of preparing, because the distance to Fleetwood as well, Alex, you've got to be careful for that one. We don't want to get any hold-ups or anything like that, really, on Boxing Day, when the sales are out, the Christmas shoppers are out, and obviously the football traffic are out, and we just can't take that. And not only that, together as a group, it just keeps the focus of the group really together, really, and keeps that real focus on what's going to be another tough game for us, and we've got to be at our level best again. So, all those kind of things are taken into consideration. As I said, Alex, some clubs do it, some clubs don't. There's not a right way, there's not a wrong way. It's just what we choose to do, and something that I've always been used to as a player and a manager. In terms of Christmas Day, I don't see any different to train, really.
I wanted to ask you about Kieran Brennan. Obviously, it's coming up to the possibility of him coming back. Has any discussions been had there? Any decisions made on whether he can be brought back? Obviously, that defensive area is looking a little bit thin now. Yeah,
it is looking a little bit thin with the injuries that we've picked up. But what we wanted to do with Kieran Brennan was, what happened with Cameron Dawson was, we wanted him to go down to Exeter. When Cameron Dawson went to Exeter and played 40-odd games, and come back and feel like, in terms of playing the game, more established, more game time, playing on the front line. And it's really important that Kieran's been doing the same at Swindon, which he has been, because when they do come back, a Kieran Brennan from 0 to 20 games, a different player. Kieran Brennan from 0 to 40 games, a complete different player. And that's what we want from him, because I really feel that, if he can get that volume of games, when he comes back, he'll be a different player, and be able to hold his own in terms of that consistency to compete with the players that we've got here, and show what he's about. He's on the right track. So our analysis of him in terms of where he's at is, we're really happy in terms of what he's doing at the moment, and long may that continue.
and the Swindon side, assume that they're keen to see out the season with them as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've not heard anything. I believe that they're happy with him in terms of what they've got with him. With Kieran, he's got a wonderful bit of tenacity about him, and he can put his foot on the board, and he can pick a pass. But what Kieran's getting is the physical side of the game, the side where you need to be on the front line, the side that you only get by playing games, and he's getting that in abundance. And again, if he can tick a box like our own, what Cameron Dawson's done in terms of that, then that's where the loan's been very, very successful.
As Joe said, approaching January, the rumour mill, you'll be delighted to hear, has started fizzing already. I'm not going to ask you about individuals because I know you don't play that game, but there are sort of 3 or 4 Premier League youngsters that have been linked with Wednesday in terms of loans. Is it fair to say with that weight of rumour that's an area that potentially you're looking at in terms of strengthening in January?
And depends what they are, Alex, because as you know, I don't know what the names are being circulated out there, but depends what they are. I don't know. At this moment in time is what we have been just doing is focusing on the group. There's been a lot of speculation, there always is going to be. But in terms of whether that go for Premier League youngsters or any other players, then we'll see. But a large part of that, Alex, will depend on in terms of how we're going. Hopefully we don't get sustain any more injuries, and I think that's been the biggest thing really with us, that we've done relatively okay with it this season in terms of working with a smaller group of players, and having that versatility to the group has been better because we've been able to cope with certain setbacks and still maintain a decent element of form in terms of that, despite the setbacks that we've had with the injuries. So we have to continue doing that, and then when the window opens, we'll have a look and we'll take lock stock in terms of where the squad's at. And even when the January window's open, Alex, anything can happen in that window. What you don't want to do is something happens outside of that window, because then you haven't got no option to do anything really.
Going back to the attacking form, obviously, the team's done a good run of clean sheets, and we've spoken about the defensive form, but it's a question that's been posed to us a little bit in terms of, I think, Wednesday were the first team to 100 goals this calendar year. Everything's going great, guns, and then all of a sudden it seems to have stopped a little bit in terms of the goals. You mentioned to Rob about contributing factors. Can you talk us through a couple of the big ones there in terms of why things have just halted in terms of fluency going forward?
Again, Alex, it would be hard for me to put my finger and pinpoint it's this for this reason, because of the contributing factors of, you play against teams every week, they've got a plan, we've got a plan to try and win the game. The build up towards games, it can be illnesses and everything what's happened. That's played a huge part, as you know, with teams. It can be so much. What I try and do is push those to one side and maintain on the group. And because sometimes if you start looking at things like that, Alex, you get detracted and get a little bit deluded with all the things really. And that's the part of the Football League season, is that sometimes you find yourself in a situation where you're just being like granite and grinding through games. And what we've had this season is, I said to the boys, whatever you do, please don't lose the defensive side and the grittiness of you. Don't lose that, because we've had that, because last season we never had that, as you know, Alex. We just didn't have it. We just didn't have that steeliness, that bit. But is that because of who we recruited in the summer? The boys that have been around the block and does what it says on the tin. So in terms of that, has that made us harder to beat? So whilst we've got that, don't turn away from the things, because I believe that the players that we've got in the team, and we find that form, we've got players that can score, and then you've got both aspects of the game, and that's what it is really. So there's always something to be working at with the game, as you can see, in terms of, the clean sheets, maintain that. The defensive record, maintain that. And then the front end of the pitch, let's continue to get into those positions and still delivering those passes, those balls, us asking opposition questions, and then the players can get on the end of it. So whilst we've been through the last couple of games, we look back on it, we've analysed it, and we try and apply ourselves in the right manner. And again, even in the games coming up, they're going to be difficult games, we know that. But we knew when we was coming into this season that all the games would be difficult. And we know that when we win games, we're going to have to earn the right to go and win games. And I certainly forecast that one in terms of the games coming up. But those are the bits and pieces. We've worked again this week. We've had a full 7, 8, 9 days to work, Alex, and we've worked, and we still on this media here now. I'm still 2 days away from the game, so there's still another 2 training sessions to go, and we'll continue to work really on that, to seeing that side of the game improve, whilst not taking away what we've certainly developed over the course of this season, which is a harder, more drilled outfit in terms of staying in games and giving us the level to win games. You keep clean sheets, you've always got a chance of winning the game. And that's always been our mentality and metaphor, certainly this season.
You may have just answered the last question here, but I was looking back at some of the more fluent, more devastating attacking performances of Wednesday's season. Certainly Morecambe, Cheltenham, Burton, I think Forest Green Rovers, if memory serves. What they had in common is the sort of the 4 at the back, and it was a little bit more gung-ho, lots of attacking players on the pitch. It's easy for us to say in the comfort of the press box. Is there any temptation at all for you to go, we're going to be more gung-ho here, but we're going to throw caution to the wind and follow the same blueprint as you have done in some of those games?
Yeah, I mean, and like I said to you, Alex, that's been, as a manager, that's been my outcome. As a defender, I was like rugged and no nonsense defender, love clean sheets as a player, but certainly as a manager in this game, the onus is to attack and try and win games, and certainly that's been certainly where I've been at, and yeah, the option is always there in terms of setting up in that attacking mindset, really to get after people. But the big thing for me is win games, Alex. I've just got that real desire and the team to win games, and when we do that, Alex, it's literally turn the page and it's on to the next one. It's almost like robotic like thinking, really, in terms of it, that you win a game. Your job is to win games, and you turn the page and you focus all your attentions on the next one. Obviously, you look at the performance. Obviously, you look at individuals within it. Obviously, you look at combinations, and did that combination work? Did that one not quite work? So you look at a lot of different aspects of it, really. And if it worked, great. Why did it work? If it didn't work, how come it didn't work, and why? What was the hurdles that was there? Why that combination didn't work? So you're always looking at things in the game to make sure that you're keeping that level of consistency and performances going in terms of winning the games. We've gone 10. We don't look at the 10. It's the next one. That 10's whatever's gone's gone. Whatever's happened over the course of the season's gone. It's now for Boxing Day for me, and that's where my focus, and that's where the group of players' focus is, really, in terms of that going forward.
Good stuff. Thanks for that, Darren. Merry Christmas to you and yours.
Good to see you, Alex. Merry Christmas, mate.
Hey Darren, you okay?
Yes, good, thanks, Ricky.
Good stuff. Obviously, you had a warm-up game at Doncaster on, I think it was Wednesday afternoon. How important was that, obviously, and also how good was it to see Mighton and Wilkes getting on the score sheet?
Yeah, perfect, really. Perfect for us in terms of the game. Ricky was absolutely perfect. Behind closed doors, at the keep modes, against Doncaster's first team, and we had 7 or 8 seniors out there along with some under-23s, so it was a perfect game for us. We needed a bounce match because we didn't want to go into the Christmas programme with probably 7 or 8 players not really having any match minutes, so to get those match minutes, they'll benefit because with the program, you just don't know what's going to happen. So in terms of the game, was perfect. To see Alex on the score sheet and Malik as well was excellent. Do them the world of good, really. But in terms of the run out for all players concerned, it was a perfect run out, really.
Just in terms of Malik, obviously I know he's kind of been in and out of the side, hasn't he, in recent weeks. How much are you kind of hoping to see more from him in the second half of the season? Because, you know, one of the big concerns for Wednesday fans has been that, you know, there's a lot of expectation when he comes, and rightly so. He kind of hoping he can press on and you know, spur on in this second half of the season.
Yeah, and with Malik as well, it's been, you know, over the course when we brought him here, it'd probably gone nearly a year or whatever not really playing football. Then we've had to bring him here, so we've almost had to give him like a pre-season and get him really up to speed. We feel now he's in a better state now physically to step in and go and perform. And we've worked extremely hard with him, and he's worked extremely hard. And even when he plays games, he'll probably feel that he's not fully firing on all cylinders, but he'll get that probably from the games that when he's ready to play them. But we certainly feel he's in a more of a level now in terms of ready to perform for us. When we first got him here, we needed to work on him really, on his fitness, on his physicality, a lot of things to do with him. But he's in a position now where I feel that now it's when he plays, it's over to Malik to go and step on the gas, and we know what he's capable of doing. And we've just got to help him and supply him with the balls and get him into areas of the pitch where he can use that ability to his maximum.
Yeah. Obviously, you mentioned the busy period coming up, 4 games in 11 days. Do you feel like the squad's ready to kind of cope with, you know, that workload? Obviously, you've got players coming back now. Obviously, Akin Pamela's kind of not up to speed, but he's had a few bounce games, hasn't he? So, do you feel like the squad's in a better position than it was a few weeks ago?
Yes, yeah, certainly. And in terms of managing the 4 games in 11 days, yes, we're in a position that we can do that. Yes, the squad will get called upon. And what we just don't want, Ricky, is no more injuries or knocks or strains over this period now. And if we don't get any of that, then we'll cope with the Christmas programme and the New Year programme.
Just in terms of the goalkeeping situation, I know obviously you brought Cammy back in last week. How have they been in training, the two of them? Obviously, you know, we spoke to him afterwards, after the Oxford game. Is it kind of his shirt to lose now? Yeah,
I mean, the both of them have been great. Stockers and Dawes has been superb, always have been. Last week, when Dawes performed those heroics last week, the first person to congratulate him was Stockers. Why is that? The goalkeepers union, they understand the complexities of the job. They understand the difficulties of it, and there's a sense of fulfillment from the both of them when they see the individual perform like that, because they understand the difficulties of it, which is what we want. Honestly, Ricky, and I say it because I see them every day, they challenge each other every day, and it's so really good to see. Dawes challenges Stockers to keep him at the sharp end. Stockers challenges Dawes to give him some of his experiences in the game and applying it to somebody that's still relatively young and has got all the potential to really kick on in the game. And that's all you could want, really. And when we brought David Stockdale here, we knew he would bring those characteristics with him. And you got to remember for Stockers as well, you know, he's gone ahead and kept the clean sheets that he's kept. And such is the level of it and the mentality. Dawes comes in and does the same. But that shows the mentality, really, in terms of both of them. So long may that continue, that they keep challenging one another. And as I said, we feel we got 2 goalkeepers there, and I said it at the start of the season, they'll both compete for number 1, and that's how it's turning out to be.
Obviously, we touched on transfers a little bit, but less than 2 weeks till it opens. Are you kind of in the mindset that you're ready to go after players from day one, or do you think it's going to have to wait for things to fall into place before any deals happen?
Depends, Ricky. I really don't know with this window, Ricky, because we've just had a World Cup.
Yeah.
A lot of the Premier League players are coming back. There's some of the players that'll have a week off, 2 weeks off. So that'll take it into January. So teams may hold on to players And you might see business done at the start of the window, you might see business done at the end of the window, you might see certain targeted players that use after, that teams might just hold on to them because dependent on how one or two have come back. And not only that, the form of the team, how they've started back. So I'm not really sure how this window is going to go with the Premier League and the Championship shutting down. Certainly for clubs at our level in the third and fourth tier football, I'm not sure in terms of it. But so we'll wait and see. What we're just focusing on is a group of players that we've got here, and keeping on maintaining our focus on the league.
And just finally, in terms of obviously interactions with the chairman, how often are you kind of speaking to him? Is that regular dialogue as we get towards January and obviously as the season goes on?
Speak to him spoke to him this morning. So we try and keep that dialogue open. If I'm not speaking to him verbally, we're on the message board, both of us, in terms of where we're at. So I try and keep that as open as much as possible. As much as the chairman's busy, we're busy here, so we understand the time difference sometimes catches us out in terms of when messages are received, but we try and keep that open, and it's a continuation. It has been since I've joined the club, and it's something that we've both been committed to in terms of that, in running the club on a day-to-day basis.
Good stuff. Cheers for that, Darren. Have a good Christmas and see you at Fleetwood.
Cheers, Ricky. Have a good Christmas. Cheers.
Hi, Darren. Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Afternoon, Stuart. Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Doing good. Just a bit more on the goalkeepers. When you're dipping them in and out, do you have to look at them or can make the decisions a bit differently? Because obviously, by their nature, goalkeepers aren't very involved in games often. It's important what they do, but they don't touch the ball as much. They're not as involved as much. So when someone comes in, does he need a bit of a run before you can, in Cam's case, before you can sort of judge him? Yeah,
but also at the same time, Stuart, and it's a good question. It's watching them at training, because you've got to remember at training we have small-sided games, phases of play, different training practices, and sometimes you look at the reflexes and you look at the sharpness and the decision making. Some of the cup matches Dawes played in, and you look at his level, and me and Cam have spoken, as me and David Stockdale do, in terms of knowing where the individuals are at the time. But what I try and say is a lot of people look and think, oh, Dawes has come in and performed the way he is. What hopefully people should be looking at is he's ready, and he's training, he's in training, and he's ready for the opportunity. And that's why I've always sort of professed to the players, is in terms of we've got a squad of 20 odd pros, but every single one of them needs to be ready, because at any given time the opportunity can catch them ready to perform. We could get on the bus and go over to Fleetwood, and I could pick a starting 11 ready for that game, and in the middle of the night somebody takes an illness and then somebody else has got to step in. Stu, these things happen, and what hopefully it shows is that the individual's been ready for the opportunity, and certainly Dawes was that last week, and long may that message continue throughout the group.
And have you seen a lift in it this week for just the way he took his opportunity on Saturday? Does he look a bit chirpy, a bit more confident?
He's still the same Dawes. I'm going to be honest with you, Stu. He come back from Exeter, and I've seen a complete different individual from the loan. And that's from the 46 games. He got promotion with Exeter, helped them into League One. And since he's come back, I've certainly seen a different Dawes to what I've seen last season. It's only because he had sustained an injury, he needed to get the games, he needed to get that 30 or 40% to his game that he needed. I've come back and I've seen a young man that's an immense figure, has a wonderful presence around the place, speaks well, lovely smile, respectful to his players and staff, and I've certainly seen that with him. And as I said, he's been competing this season, and I've just been honest with both of them that when it's right and that, they'll play or they'll compete for that number 1 jersey, and that's exactly what you've seen with them. So I'm not surprised with Dawson the way he is. I'm not surprised with David Stockdale the way he is, because we knew that that's what we brought in the summer. And and sometimes you can only speak it, but when it happens, Stuart, it carries more weight.
And just in terms of the way you sort of feel things are at the moment, obviously 3 consecutive draws, you've sort of talked about how performances haven't quite been where you wanted. Do you feel that we're sort of about to hit a turning point where either the performances will pick up or it'll translate into a downturn? Are we sort of at a crossroads in that regard?
That's always the case with every game, and that's where we are now, Stuart, with the next game. And how are you able to turn that fortune around into the next game, to keep that going? We want to keep our run of games going, but we want our performance to be better. And how do we do that? It's the next game. This season already have seen us perform extremely well and lose. This season has seen us perform really poor and win. It's just the nature of football, and we can all eulogise and scratch our heads. And truth be known, would any one of us have one definitive point why that is? The answer would be no, because the complexities of the industry and the sport, and that's why it's such a beautiful game, because everybody can watch the same game, and you can have different opinions. However, the level of opinions that everybody's watching the game will always see the picture totally different. So, and that's the beautiful thing about football, and it will continue to be that throughout season after season to come, really, in terms of that. We've just watched the World Cup, and some of the decisions there, Stuart, even when we've got the VAR, has been mind-boggling. So it just goes to show you things there, and it's football. I get it, it's football.
And just in terms of these 4 games in 11 days, how invaluable is it that 3 of them are at home?
Yeah, we love playing at home. As I said, we've got a real proud home record, and we wanted to keep that going. But any game, Stuart, now there's challenges, there's hurdles, and that's the beautiful thing with it. This game presents challenges week in, week out, and that's no different. But it's really pleased that the next 4 games, for 3 of them to be at home, it's really pleasing.
I mean, Christmas always gives you an opportunity to build good momentum. So does 3 home games on the trot. So it does feel like a real opportunity for you this Christmas to just kick on.
Yeah, I don't. Obviously, we've got the home games, and when it comes to it, Stu, we'll apply ourselves to it. But now, what our focus is the Fleetwood game. And I know it sounds boring, I know it sounds cliche, but it really is that, really. And that's my job, really, is to focus on putting all our energies into Fleetwood. When the home games come, they'll come in all due course. But certainly for this Boxing Day game, it's a real focus that we have to maintain with that one. As I said, there's parts to our game that we've been working at this week that we want to implement and put right in for that Fleetwood game. So there's been a lot to look forward to this game without taking our eyes off looking at other games.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much for your time. Have a great Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Stu. You too, mate. See you soon.
Cheers. Thank you very much.